You know, when you reach my age, people assume you've always been wise, that you walked through life with some kind of map folded neatly in your pocket. But the truth? Most of us were just guessing. I certainly was. When I was 46, my life collapsed like an old shed in a windstorm. Career gone, marriage hanging by threads, bank account thin enough to read a newspaper through. For a while, I blamed everything: the economy, bad luck, other people. But one cold morning, sitting alone in my garage, smelling the cedar from an old cabinet I'd built years earlier, I realized something uncomfortable. The wreckage wasn't just outside my life, it was inside it too. That was the year I began what I now call the 7 steps. Not some shiny self-help formula, just 7 hard lessons learned with dirt under my fingernails. Step 1, the life audit, the reckoning. Before you rebuild anything, you have to look at the damage. Really look at it. I remember climbing into my attic that winter. You ever cleaned out an attic? Boxes from 20 years ago, old tax papers, a broken lamp you keep promising to fix. The place smelled like dust and forgotten summers. I spent hours throwing things out. Half of it I didn't even remember owning. That's when it hit me. My life looked exactly like that attic. Too much junk. So I sat down with a yellow notebook and did something brutal. I wrote down the 8 parts of my life: health, work, money, family, friends, mind, purpose, spiritual life. And I asked one simple question: where are the leaks in the boat? Not with numbers, with honesty. Turns out, the boat was leaking everywhere. That's a painful thing to see, but here's the truth no one tells you. You cannot bring new furniture into a room filled with trash.
Step 2. Mindset, the internal compass. For years, I had one favorite sentence: why is this happening to me? It's a comfortable sentence, feels like a warm blanket, but it keeps you stuck. One evening, I was sitting outside listening to the wind move through the trees, and I asked a different question. What is this trying to teach me? That small shift changes everything, because perspective is the only thing you truly own. If you believe the world is a battlefield, every conversation becomes a fight, every setback becomes an attack. But if you see life as a teacher, even pain has a lesson. That night I realized something else. Most of my suffering wasn't coming from events, it was coming from the story I was telling about them.
Step 3. The vision, your North Star. After the wreckage, you need direction. Not escape, direction. A ship captain doesn't just sail away from the storm, he sails toward a harbor. For weeks I sat with that same yellow notebook, and I asked myself something I had never asked before. What kind of life would actually make me proud? Not impressive, not wealthy, proud. Purpose doesn't arrive like lightning. It's quieter than that, more like a small fire you build with sticks. At first, it barely warms your hands, but if you feed it, it becomes the thing that keeps you alive during winter.
Before we go further, I want to know something. Which part of your life feels like it needs rebuilding right now? Write it in the comments. This channel is for people quietly trying to rebuild their lives. If you're one of them, subscribe and walk this road with us.
Step 4. Work on yourself daily. The garden. Now here is the part most people hate. Change is not dramatic, it's repetitive. You don't grow an oak tree by yelling at it. You water it every morning. That year, I started small. 15 minutes of reading before sunrise, a walk around the block, writing one honest page in that notebook. Some days it felt pointless, like watering dirt, but gardens work on quiet mathematics. What you do every day becomes who you are. Excellence is mostly boring. Step 5. Design your environment, the greenhouse. This one hurt. because it meant looking at my surroundings. You can't get sober in a bar, and you can't grow roses in a salt marsh. Some of my friendships were really just shared complaints. We talked about the past, old stories, old failures, old enemies. But people who only live in yesterday will never help you build tomorrow. So I did something difficult. I changed my circle. Not with anger, just with intention. Growth requires the right climate. Step 6. Learn new skills, the tool belt. By 50, most men think their learning days are over. That's when the rust begins. I decided to fight it. Every skill you learn is like buying a ticket to somewhere new. So I started learning again, not for status, for survival. New technology, communication, even simple business skills. At first, I felt like an old dog trying to do tricks, awkward, slow. But curiosity is the closest thing we have to a fountain of youth. An old dog who stops learning becomes a rug. I refuse to become furniture. Before we continue, take a second. If this story resonates with you, subscribe. There are many more lessons ahead. Step 7. Enjoy the process, the walk. Here's the final lesson, and it took me the longest to understand. Most people think happiness lives at the summit, the promotion, the house, the victory. But if you only enjoy the summit, you've wasted 99% of the mountain. Life isn't one big destination. It's 1,000 ordinary days. The smell of cedar while working in a garage, coffee steaming in the morning quiet, the sound of a clock ticking while you write in an old notebook. The life you want is really just a collection of todays. If today is miserable, the year will be too. Now let me tell you something honest. Change leaves scars. Sometimes you have to prune parts of yourself you actually liked. Old habits, old identities, even old dreams. Cutting those away hurts, but pruning is how trees grow stronger. And time plays tricks on us. When you're inside a difficult year, it feels endless, like winter will never end. But from where I sit now, that entire year of rebuilding was just a blink of an eye. If your life feels broken right now, good. Broken things can be rebuilt. Start with the attic, clear the junk, fix the leaks in the boat, find your North Star, then water the garden. Every day, slowly, quietly, your life will begin to grow again. And one day, you'll look back and realize the collapse wasn't the end of your life. It was the beginning of the one you were meant to live. I want to ask you something. Which of these 7 steps do you think is the hardest? Tell me below. And if this story helped you even a little, subscribe, because the next lesson might be the one that changes everything.
If life has ever knocked you down and forced you to start again, you're not alone. Tell me in the comments. Life has a strange way of breaking us so it can rebuild us stronger. And if you are someone trying to rebuild, consider subscribing.